Hello everyone, welcome to Project LAS.
I'm Clover.
I'm Lily.
I'm Jazz.
And I'm ASHA.
We are a group of IB and BTech students, here to help you guys through life at KG5 with this little video series. We help summarize lessons of PSHE with the expert advice of those who have already been through MYP and GCSEs. All of you have your likes and dislikes, your hobbies and such. And that's great! And I'm sure there's some of you who have wanted to keep doing your hobby forever, to keep spending time doing it and never wanting that time to end.
Now, some things, no matter how fun they are, must be done in moderation. If you do them too much, it could lead to some dangerous situations.
If you haven't realized already, this episode will focus on the dangers of addiction, the various forms of addiction, and how to help someone suffering from it.
But what is addiction anyway?
Addiction is the repeated use of a certain substance or activity to the point where it is harmful for the person doing it. The most common forms of addiction these days are drugs, alcohol, and gambling. However, you can get addicted to a whole myriad of different things.
They can lead to a dependency on that thing, making you feel like you, quite literally, can't even live without it. And once it starts, it's very, very hard to stop.
But how do addictions happen? Surely it's easy to just not do something. Why would people want to do those things in the first place?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
There's many reasons for people to get addicted to something. In terms of substances like drugs and alcohol, it can be a result of wanting to fit in. Peer pressure can take effect during parties or even at school, creating a chain reaction where the excessive consumption of that substance leads to a dependency on it.
However, it doesn't always have to be recreational drugs. You can also get addicted to medicinal drugs, such as painkillers and sedatives.
But it's medicine, isn't it?
Even still, taking a lot of medicine, or any drug for that matter, can lead to an addiction if not handled properly. The addict may want to chase the feeling of ecstasy that they felt when they took the drug, commonly known as being high. They may also simply want to avoid the consequences of not taking the drug after being addicted for so long, resulting in symptoms of withdrawal.
For gambling, it can be caused by a bad financial position, a need to experience the thrill, or a want for the atmosphere and the reputation you get if you win.
It can start off as a casual thing, to simply see what it's like, but it can evolve into something more dangerous as they try to earn their money back. This can cause immense debt as they get more money to gamble away. However, once they win, they realize that the money they won isn't enough to cover the debt, throwing them into a cycle of gambling to cope with it and win more money back.
Most games of gambling are usually rigged against you, basically guaranteeing a loss in finances every time. However, things like the gambler's fallacy and watching other people gain a profit while gambling can make you think you have a chance at winning big.
Substance addiction can also cause various physical problems, such as damage to your muscles, skin, and nasal cartilage at best. At worst, you can get organ failure, illnesses like HIV, and various cancers like lung cancer and the more respiratory-related drugs, like smoking.
Speaking of smoking, there's also consequences to the people around you, such as secondhand smoke. It can make people test positive for drugs despite not doing any, or give them an addiction to smoking through extended exposure.
And the behavioral changes that come with addiction can also affect others. They can get into accidents while driving under the influence, or be more violent while high, which can cause physical and mental trauma to others around them. Substances can also affect the growth of a fetus during pregnancy, causing anomalies or even death.
There's also the dangers of trying to mix 2 or more drugs together, or using too much of one drug and overdosing. While it may sound fun, the consequences are severe as it can lead to hospitalization, comas, or even death.
Always remember, your actions have consequences.
There are also many consequences to substance addiction. While it can be caused by a mental health problem, it can also create them or make your mental health worse. They can also cause hallucinations and paranoia, which influences anxiety. In turn, the person might take more drugs to ease themselves or distract them from these issues. It can also affect your finances as the constant purchase of drugs drains your bank real quick. This can then lead to homelessness, which may feed an addiction further. All of this can culminate in an increased risk of suicidal thoughts or even suicide itself, if they don't die through consumption alone.
Well, if you just stop doing the drug, the effects should stop getting worse, right?
Not exactly. Remember that withdrawal thing we talked about? That's also one of the consequences of addiction. While it is good for someone to get off the drug they're addicted to, it can also result in withdrawal symptoms. These include various behavioral changes such as anxiety, mood swings, and hallucinations, and more physical changes such as insomnia, nausea, and muscle aches. The more severe symptoms include paranoia, tremors, and even seizures.
These symptoms sound terrible to experience.
Which is why so many addicts continue with their addiction, so they don't have to experience all of this.
But just remember, it's all part of recovering from an addiction. You'll feel way better after going through the process.
Then since gambling is just an activity, there should be less physical consequences, right?
Well, not necessarily. While it is true, gambling can affect your life just the same as drugs, if not more. There's financial issues, obviously, but also the relationships you have with others, especially if you borrow money from them. Gambling that money away can create a lack of trust, as they don't get that money back.
There's also the mental health issues that can come with gambling. Gamblers may experience depression, anxiety, and increased stress, which can lead to even more anxiety. There is also an increased risk of attempting suicide, as the hopelessness of losing everything can cause suicidal thoughts.
Man, this addiction stuff is pretty terrifying. So many consequences, and yet it's so easy to fall into it.
Well, don't worry. There are a couple of ways to get out of an addiction.
However, before we talk about getting out of one, let's talk about how to avoid one in the first place.
There are various warning signs to addiction that you can look for in yourself or others.
If you suspect someone or yourself of an addiction, look for physical signs such as bloodshot eyes, different pupil sizes, or a change in appetite. There can also be changes in their schedule and free time activities, performance in school or work, or they may suddenly become more secretive or defensive about what they're doing. Look for quick changes in personality, mood swings and irritability, sudden anxiety, and paranoia.
The very first thing to do is to acknowledge your addiction. It may be hard to admit, but you have to accept it in order to recover from it.
The second thing to do is get a professional. It's great to see someone trying to tackle their addiction on their own, but professional help is very beneficial in this case. There's many people out there to help you with rehab, detoxing, withdrawal, anything. It may be your problem, but that doesn't mean you have to deal with it alone.
If you have a friend who's going through rehab or withdrawals, make sure to support them. They'll be going through a lot of changes, physically and emotionally. There's not much you can do to quicken the process aside from pure support, but you can always ask a medical professional for advice. There are some hotlines on the screen that you can call, and you can always go to the school's wellbeing center if needed.
You can ask us, but we're not as reliable as a doctor or a psychologist.
Important note. It's dangerous to assume that someone is addicted to something and put them into more harm through your assumption. They may be experiencing other issues which are causing the symptoms, and so suggesting that they're addicted when they're not could actually make things worse. Be careful before assuming. Wait to make sure it's actually an addiction before taking any serious action.
Be warned. Just because these ways help you out of addiction and its symptoms, it does not mean that all of its effects will go away.
It doesn't mean it'll be easy either, but it'll be better for you in the long run.
Well, that's all we have for today. I hope we haven't scared you too much about addictions.
I mean, it is a serious topic after all. You should be scared. Within reason, of course.
Well, yes, but learning and being a little spooked is better than not learning at all.
Stay safe. Don't do too many drugs.
And thanks for watching.